Welcome to Cadence Design Systems Fidelity Tutorial Tuesday, where we show you how to use a feature or demonstrate a technique in just a few minutes. Today I want to look at the Edit Preferences panel, and in particular in the middle of this list is the text output frame with a number of toggles and selections for essentially choosing what types of messages are written to the messages window down here at the bottom of the interface for you automatically. It's first in the list, so let's start with script, and I'm going to close back out of the panel with script still checked, and I'm going to come up here to the script menu and re-execute a script that I've previously run called Domain Diagnostics. It's essentially going to go out and look at all the domains that I have in this mesh and give me some diagnostic information. In this particular, I've chosen aspect ratio. And as soon as I run that, it dumps all this information to the messages window about these domains with regard to the diagnostic I've chosen. And you can see all of these lines, which are essentially standard output for the script, have a little blue pre-term script written out to indicate those are script messages. Additionally, there's an info message in green, which all the info messages have this green info label indicating that that particular script has finished. And so you'll see a number of these green info messages as you work through a project and have successfully completed a number of different operations. And so that's actually the second checkbox. So you can turn off those info messages if you no longer want to see them. The next one on the list here is the warning messages that's also toggled on by default. And so let's say, for instance, I close back out of this. I've left warning messages checked on. I'm going to set my mask for selection of only database models. I'll select the model for the eSave vehicle. And if I go to the Create menu and go to Automatic Surface Mesh, I'm going to immediately get a warning message down here in the messages window, which is essentially just telling me that that model already has surface grids or domains associated to it. And if I use this command to create new domains, then those ones that exist already will be deleted automatically. And so that's a really good example of warning messages. So back again to the Preferences panel. The next one we have here are error messages. Generally, errors are things that weren't possible to perform, a command perhaps that you've chosen and it wasn't able to actually execute that command as you wished. And so a good example of this would be splitting a connector into an equal number of splits. And let's say, for instance, I come over here and I select this shorter connector on the leading edge of the pylon, and I can see in the status bar it has a dimension of 8, and so essentially I could create 7 equal splits for this validly. And so if I do that, I type in a 7 and hit enter, then it says it split the connector into 7 entities, and it works fine. But if I go in and choose anything larger than that for that particular connector, let's say 8 or 9, equal splits, and hit enter, in that case now I get an error message, and it could not split that entity. The connector doesn't have enough grid points for that particular requested split operation. So that's a really good simple example of an error message. Alright, let's go back up to Edit Preferences. And so we've talked about these first 4. The debug option, it's off, toggled off by default, basically just saying, okay, you're not going to get these debug messages, and generally you don't need this on unless you've been advised to turn that on in some situation where you may be having some unexpected results from an operation. One of my favorites, and one that's used by a lot of our users, is this journal option, which essentially says, okay, for every operation after I toggle this on, go ahead and write the equivalent to the journal commands in Glyph form into the messages window. And so let's say, for instance, I come in and select one of these domains in my grid and delete it. Well, that immediately gives me the equivalent Glyph commands for that operation in the messages window. And so this is a really good learning tool in those situations where you're having trouble figuring out maybe what a particular glyph command is that you need. And so you can just step through those operations in the interface and have them written for you automatically to the messages. And so that leaves us with a couple of final options down here. Max message length can be up to 10,000 characters for a single message. The default here is 1,000, and so you can adjust that if you wish to. And then finally, the last one, which is also on by default, is timestamp. And this is really handy information, and you can see these already down here in all these operations that I've already performed. Every time one of these messages goes to messages, it gives you a timestamp for that particular operation or when that particular message was written. And so if you find that to be cluttering your messages and you don't want to see it, then of course you can turn that off and no longer have those timestamps. However, you should know that there are a few commands, for instance, like initializing unstructured blocks, that will write out timestamps for you regardless, so that you know how long those processes have taken.
If you like this video, be sure to click the thumbs up button or subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, drop us a line down below or connect with us via LinkedIn, which is linked in the description. Thank you all, and have a pleasant Tuesday.